Today, in my faded psycho-spiritual diagram robe, I will be talking about The Blonde Stranger in the Creek, Chapter 5, The Bedtime Story. About this painting will probably be my next video in this series, and the Cups cards, the Princess of Cups, and again, the Cups court cards, and that is the symbolic diagram of the Princess of Cups, and that's Fairy Bowery Wicca Tarot painting series. And as I enter into the bedroom, I pray, the righteous thoughts, please give them headroom. The righteous deeds, please give them legroom. The righteous words, by God, in my soul, through all room. The sheikh had finished his night orisons. Returning to his room, he lay down to reflect upon the recited. Then it was that he heard her voice call to him from a different state. Mareed had things to discuss and questions to ask. What is Qabalah? I have heard about it. I do not know exactly what it is and how it relates to my task. Sheikh said, Qabalah means the received, the direction, the orientation, and the tradition. It is the most commonly recognized system of Jewish mysticism. It is based in the Aramaic scriptures and the works of certain scholars in Hebrew. Mareed asks, what do you mean? What makes them different? Their way of synthesis and analysis is distinctive and complex. They take passages of Tanakh, or the Jewish Bible, and look at the very letters, their marks, and their number values. While those practices existed 800 years ago, it is only that which was based mainly on the texts such as Sefer HaZohar, the Book of Splendor, from Spain in the 1300s, and Sefer HaBahir, the Book of Illumination, and Sefer Yetzirah, Book of Creation, which is written after Constantine. They interpreted the Judaic text through medieval scholarship, such as the works of Maimonides. There were three main aspects of the system that set it apart. One was the idea that creation was a continuation of the Creator and could be compared with each other. Another was that they sought the experience. And a third was a ritualistic use of it to change and perceive mystical powers. I think this will be easier with the story, if you'll allow. Sure, she said. Since I expect that we will stop on certain things and talk about them, it will probably take 2 or 3 hours, but that doesn't have to be all the same night, he replied. The book was The Wake World from Konx Am Pax by Aleister Crowley. It was a fairy tale about the tarot cards. Now the deck was a wonderful little system of psychology. There were two main purposes in the deck. One was a system of categorizing beliefs and practices. Another was to put a person through a predictive list of stages or stations. Both were based on traditional images and symbols. And when I tell you more about what I told her about Qabalah, I may go into more of those, which colors and all that. The reading and discussions of Aleister Crowley's The Wake World was to occur on 3 nights in Samhain, the night of October 31st till nightfall of the 31st of January. 1 night in Imbolc, sundown, January 31st to sunset of April 30th. Well, not quite, but in the typical celebration now. The first few pages were expounded on the 3rd night of the religious use of snow in Samhain, are January 15th, or the 26th of the 12th month of 1427. The next 4 were upon the 3rd night of the legacy of wisdom to endow upon descendants. January 18 are the 29th of the 12th month of 1427. It's the 2nd of the 6th month of 1437, by the way. The last 6 were evenly conveyed in a night of Samhain and a night of Imbolc. The 3rd night of Courage to Fail and Try Again, January 25th, are the 7th of the 1st month of 1428, and the 1st night of the Integrity of Vocation, February 2nd, are the 15th of the 1st month of 1428. Is there anything I need to know before you begin? The Mareed student asks the Sheikh teacher. I suppose I shall tell you of something mentioned in the preface. He told her one passage is attached to the beginning of this book is the 112th surah of Al-Quran. In this we see monotheism, pantheism, atheism, and there is no contradiction. What? She exclaimed. First, one acknowledges the oneness of God. Then, that we worship all of the God and his absoluteness. Then we affirm that God is not like or comparable to any in anything. I hope to read this story with this stage of consciousness. Each of the 22 trumps and the 10 spheres related touch on different aspects of God and the religious life. They were flashcard lessons back in the day. As you hear the lessons, think of yourself as the main character and the guide in the story as God are those who may be the means by which you were taught by God. It is the sort of like the love story between God and humanity found in the Song of Solomon. I don't really know anything about Solomon. He was a king, I think. That book expresses interaction with God in terms of desires. This story touches on that theme, but it makes it about the king and queen. They start off as princess and prince. They need to develop before they achieve what they were meant to in life. And instead of Sheikh, the Prince of Swords. Instead of Mareed, Princess of Cups. Mareed said, I'm ready to hear the story now. Very well, Sheikh responded. It starts with Lola Daydream telling about herself and her fairy prince. She thinks everyone loves and fears him. Nothing was, but as a reflection of what was in his mind. There were things too wonderful to tell about him. In his garden, God's garden, one was in a bare and natural state. Now to start, one needed to invoke and use the rites with love and a pure mind. This was conveyed through the mention of a ring of amethyst. Now amethyst is a symbol of the mind. She tells of the litany of the ring of self-sacrifice. INRI and gates. TARO. We are all asleep like her and awake gradually through our own effort by the God's permission. Lola Lola, the key of delights, is 17 in the story. She wanders in the manner of a typical blossoming woman, and she has to keep watch of herself, lest that lead her into trouble. She wants to love and be loved, but she knows some things must wait. They visit the first of 10 palaces, the Green Palace. Isn't that where we all start, realizing and refining ourselves on a material basis? She sees that which tried to tell her that every end was a beginning, but did not understand the image of loftiness. This image of self, and many other things there scared or distracted her. In life, fear, hate, ignorance, and the glitter of desire have the potential to keep us from further development. It seems that most never make it past the first level, but that will not harm our souls and spirits as long as we truly act if God is here. Lola Daydream showed her affection for the fairy prince, and she was granted admittance to the Tunnel of Tau, which is the world or the universe. She saw the zodiacal beast of the quadrants, and their elemental processes made you realize that you were more than a body, and the soul is something to transform. After realizing that the processes are something to remain active in, they passed out of the dirtiest tunnel into the Violet Palace. When we first begin on the stages of mind, confusion arises. Most go too far in rejecting what we don't know, or to the other side, accepting everything they hear. The woman who dominates this realm connects the light and the darkness. Isn't that the next supreme realization? All is but in God's reflection. Genesis 1:27. Creation is what God left behind. Exodus 34:23. He left her in peace, and she departed thus. Another night came, and similar events replayed. The Sheikh continued to tell his murid the story. The effort for the fairy prince opened up another passage like all efforts for the sake of God do. The loudest noise came. See Al-Quran 74:8. And they saw the day of rising. Most don't awake until they see that there will be consequences for their thoughts, words, and deeds. When the time comes, that will be too late. The passage of Sheen, the judgment, the Ion, also made known that our cultists must be modern and available to every local. Then a third and final passage was opened out of the Hall of the Slaves, called Rash. It was the sun, brightly lit with the sun, overheard the innocents played amongst abundance. In this joy they were liberated. In Al-Quran 102:8. Al-Quran 102:8 says, "We will be asked about our pleasure." Verse 7 and 8 of Surah 99 tells us about the smallest weight of good or bad. We'll see its result. Encircled by abundance, they were protected with beams from the limits they can't see in the depths of night. Then they came to the Orange Palace. In there were those who ceased an initiation to predefined mysteries. The depth of the exoteric side of these could be seen. Whether we could learn or acquire of this anointing of the mind, soul, and spirit was another matter entirely. Three paths lead to the seventh house. Quoth, or the moon, was the first of these. We enter through illusion, and we must generate into something prepared for judgment. The towers of light and darkness framed the sign that said human wisdom and knowledge was but a reflection of a gift from divinity. Allahumma Elohim. The palaces for learning such mysteries can be quite intimidating. Thod, or, in a different sense, Hey, or the star, was the second passage. Those who adapt well to the perfection of information find a straight and quicker path to enlightenment. These perfect themselves in ways that acknowledge their provider and what is known about the governing of the universe. When their souls rest in that state, others may mistake them as gods and goddesses. The third and final way to the truly green palace was of Pei, or the tower. Here was the Jihadi Akbar, the great struggle striving, spoke about by Muhammad. Here was the war against the negative four egos spoken of in India. One is glad when the true central idea of self is what remains after our prison is destroyed. They entered into the malachite and emerald green palace. Further thought in living the book allowed for union, and this gave birth. Most who got that far saw the reflective ceiling and thought it was impassable. So there is where they stayed. The past was known well enough to atone for mistakes in it, and the way to attaining a light all your own causes a deep dread, but God is ever the same God. Maud, in Enochian. Ayin, or the devil, was the first way out. Now the devil came and sat amongst those present. He taught the doctrines of materialism. Every infernal or ignorant display got called the savior of the world. Isn't that the great secret of it all? Every vice is virtue. All evil and ignorance comes from righteousness and knowledge. To this Fitratullah, the original nature God set us on, we should return. Then can the ruling of ourselves be tamed. Fitratullah. By doing this, in submission and remembrance of the God's command, out of the terror by night, it was time for the arrow by day. The tunnel of scene or art was full of a woman who shone with solar, lunar, and star principles and kingdoms. She transferred the living consciousness from an inferior vessel to a superior one with her passive side, and purified with her active side. The reflection of opposites in the esoteric sense, meaning that her maintenance of a balance in her material became an act of transcendence. Fi sabilillah, in the path of the God. Of this, she had two pets, found in the outer darkness, and led them in kindness through the terrestrial kingdom. Baptizing her pets in fire and water was her path beyond wind. For all these reasons, she goes between the telestial and celestial kingdoms. This comes to all with the new life that comes when we are realized the symbol of the black stone, Hajar Aswad, of the great alchemist Jabir and Razi. Noon, or death, was the final gateway of this set. Al-Mumit, the giver of death, has made it for all of us. Al-Mumit has made it for us all. Yet no matter how much death we see, life seems to just come back again. Al-Muhyi, the grantor of life, lets our Hayy, pure essence soul, survive. But to get beyond this stage of development, part of you has to die. Death comes upon all beings who had material bodies. The 3 passages to the treasure house of gold were won upon the proper realization of them. Outside and inside the 6th house was different. When one passed through the outer shell, it would be known you were there. Your body goes through the trials of violent initiation. With these shocks, you experience the sign of liberation. You become the feathered serpent of the 10th house. You swear and confess solemn things not to be repeated to the profane. All the trials were worth it to achieve those states of being and to be in contact with others on the path. Now the real exposure of the female principle to the male principle occurred. In a room of perfection, she saw symbols of God and his relationship to humans, herself primarily. Isn't that what all of these symbols refer to? What we are, were, and will be in our orthodoxy and orthopraxy? In the remembrance of death and the hereafter, she lost him. God seemed gone, even dead, but she as an initiate knew better. She left armed with guidance and punishment. She went about upon the path of her true will, hearing the word of the one of the ruling will. See Al-Quran 284. The eternal absolute, As-Samad. The time, Ad-Dahr, had shown her that she had enough within her to be on the right path without always experiencing his divine presence. This was all known by traversing the interior of the Firwood Mountain. Division and connection went out every direction from this. Flashes of metaphysical experience were there, and beyond this sphere, Sifra. Now she was ready for a real honeymoon. But good girls never tell the details of their marital relationship like that. I leave you invoking the peace and blessings of the God upon you, said Sheikh. Thank you, Mareed replied. May they be for you too. And this whole thing is a summary of these conversations. The ritual prayers of the first half of the night, Maghrib wa Ishat, as-Salat, had been completed when her voice came a-calling again. For that night, and the night I will mention after that, the conversation was not dominated by the conversation on the Wake World by Aleister Crowley. Are you ready to hear of the more mysterious side of Lola Daydream's honeymoon with her fairy prince? Yes, but I can't spend as much time with this tonight, said Mareed. Very well, said Sheikh. The fresh joy of submitting to the God never is over for the devotee. Now on this path, the human spiritual guide still has work to do, and hopefully the student, Mareed, follows the teacher, Sheikh, in his attainment of righteousness and consciousness, reducing the wickedness of themselves. The condition on this is that it is presumed he knows and acts with proper authority to do so. So you'll tell me if you make a mistake that I knew about, even if it seems I don't remember, Mareed replied. Inshallah, if the God wills it. I will do my best, said Sheikh. For one's development, if progressed enough, gives life and strength to others achieving. Her goal to acquire the station of wisdom, Chukma, called first for dividing into the way of the unconscious, Ma, or the hanged man. He is where one submits to the natural order without thinking about it. Out of love for the God and his creation, one is altruistic for the sake of the upliftment of all. The first one we have to save is ourselves, and we can only be the means to help those who it is our place to help. The true saviors don't do this out of what others think. The other pathway to the fifth house was called adjustment, or lam, also known as numbered path 8, or thief, instead of 11. In there you see that the truth and righteousness is clear enough, but often very difficult to stay on. The motivation for change leads in the ways to pay devotional service to the God and do good to his creation, as is mentioned in Al-Quran 4:36. Now, if one turns to the same surah 4:72 through 74, tells of the rest of this card. Intentions are to be purified. We have to do the right thing regardless of the perceived reward or punishment on the material plane. For with Allah is better. Such a pure intention in the beginning, middle, and end can be so hard, but so very bright. That is to be seen in the house of the tools of man. The place was harsh and overwhelming to the senses, but it is a place of more developed people. Though many who become fine-tuned machines stay that way the rest of their life. We should strive for more. Jihad doesn't always keep one in difficult situations. Kaf, or the Wheel of Fortune, was the first of the three to the priestly house. It showed one's learning, relationships, and the secrets of the soul, all struggling to the top. The point was to find that central point of least resistance and submit to the natural order of things, a balance. Yud, or the Hermit, was a beautiful tunnel of Renaissance. The ancient stood in the midst of the sages, philosophers in particular. He exposes honesty, chastity, and other virtues. We are to tell any who would listen out of the way of the center and the top. Of the way of the center and the top. Some secrets will only be known by those who internalize them. Only God truly knows the levels of true achievement, but we know our station better than outsiders. To make it through his way, the Sunnatullah of Al-Quran 17, 77, 33, 62, 48, 23, and 6, 114, we must pass through the 70,000 veils on the way to Allah spoken of in the Ahadithana about Prophet Muhammad. Passing through ignorance, we come to thief or lust. Formerly this was known as Lam, strength, and the 11th trump. But things have changed. Completing our renouncement requires the patience and consistency mentioned in Al-Quran 103:3. Loving God with all our strength, see Deuteronomy 6:49. We can shut our animal natures off. Wait a second. That really means we open them to righteous thoughts, righteous words, and righteous deeds? Yes, that is it. The fire of lust is to be experienced in the love of God. See Al-Quran 2:165. I would love that Allah would forgive me. See Al-Quran 24:22. Wouldn't you? See Al-Quran 3:159. Yes, said Mareed, I think I know what you mean by making one's deeds transcendent instead of merely common now. It's okay if I try and forget too often, right? Even if you do worse than forget, ask forgiveness, because the God loves you. See Al-Quran 11:90, replied the Sheikh. He continued, when she was ready. The fourth house was a place of mercy. It was built of vestiges of body, mind, and soul. They were in a way that would allow for attuning with existence on the path of the earth in which you dwelt. This place of mercy and love is full of healthy circulation. The tensions are herein released when the religious instinct is satisfied. Every little bit of the courage to do this is within you and without you. Protected from illusion, you see where all the gates are opened to repentance and seemingly boundless opportunities. One sees that whenever bliss is pure, it exists in the realm of the awakened. Everything that you know is a result of what you think and say and do. You know this now. As a master of the houses of mercy, chesed, judgment and fear, chesed and puchid, graceful beauty, taparah, constancy, netj, splendor, hud, foundation, yasud, and kingdom, malkut. You must manage them perfectly before going on further. When we first experience a state, there are things left unfinished in the lower states of being. This realization can seem quite terrible. She saw that there were two ways to look at this journey, and that each station had its own way of attracting others to it. The calls to the houses or spheres seemed half-truths. Being troubled, she explained them as she understood that journey. People make that official because they see undue problems with other ways. There is not skipping of attaining rank. Al-Muslimin, for example, obtain surat. Suwar. Suwar is plural. Surat, rank. And the more they obtain, increases the rank. Likewise, we are expected to live up to our statuses. There were ages when there were no stations on the perfecting way. However, now things are different. And that has become necessary. The ways to the third house were only via the fifth and sixth houses. That wasn't allowed unless you had went through the previous 7 houses and 14 gates, though. Before we continue, we have to understand that there are 78 cards of the tarot. And what it means to be slain, mourn, and have victory and rise. That is the metaphorical father age. They attain to the rules and skills of this, and we have to not just know, but realize 5 things about V. The real star of this is secret. The real leader of the community, Adalmi, is God. The source of light, Lux, is not just about others, but ourselves too. Death and life must be known in the light of blessing. I breathe. Finally, That the secret is that there are really 11 spheres, separate, not 10. We know that by the one, Ahad, healing, mending, increasing limb, etc., are mysteries therein. Abrahadabra, abra, chadabra, whatever. When we are within the themes of the ring of Taro and YNRI, INRI, we know to move along into the realm of identity and further development. With this, we must recess till another time. Now, he acts blessings and guidance for them. Then they closed in peace, and one may notice that the tarot has a switch on both ends of the zodiac. Aquarius and Aries, and Libra and Leo kind of switch their ends. So like the rubber band that's kind of twisted on two ends. Another night and another season came upon them. The contact prayers of the first half of the night were complete when their voices met again. I will now continue with cheats, with chets, or the chariot, said Sheikh. We ride on as pure and innocent. The cycles of creation throughout the ages have been filled with the metaphysical experiences. This we find when we meditate upon the negative and positive principles. Pulled by eternal generation, we descend. Only with the help of Allah can we hope to make it past the 19 guards of the realm of punishment mentioned in Al-Quran 74, 30, and 31. Zan, or the lovers, is an intimidating tunnel as well. We can be full of wisdom and righteousness, or wicked and ignorant. The fallacy is that things are not this black and white. There are different degrees. People often think otherwise when they corrupt religion. The physical and spiritual are not separate realities. These problems are fixed upon entering proper relationships. The most important of these is with God. Bad choices can prevent further development. However, when we succeed, the levels of what was thought to be our essence are removed to reveal the core of our being. What we thought of as God isn't. See Al-Quran 112, 3 and 4. And the emptiness of separation from love hits us. The detachment of thinking outside the box leads us into the sphere of wisdom. In this sphere, we know that nothing we ever have is our own, and things are what they are, reflecting upon the beauty of being exalted above the material realms makes us passive to a belief that God's presence is within all as Paramatma, God within all. Not only that, but an experience of God manifest through creation as Bhagavan, Supreme Persona of God. When we experience the truths, our teaching results in leadership of others. Countless blessings come upon our legacy when we are crowned with a system of principles and display the knowledge of these wisely. An example is the 12 steps of alchemy, calcination, congelation, fixation, dissolution, digestion, distillation, sublimation, separation, incineration, fermentation, multiplication, and projection. Wow are the Hierophant was the first of three gates to the sphere of knowledge. We must affix our our microcosmic consciousness to our macrocosmic consciousness. The active support of our holy guardian angels, see Al-Quran, Surah 86, is by worshiping in a place where we can share of the mysteries. We move to the passage where all is ruled with knowledge in the light of beauty. Thod, R, in a different sense, is called Hay. The emperor is the indestructible spirit. In this role, the inferior realms of mankind are ruled in a seemingly material matter, but with proper initiative of all being. We continue with the tunnel of Dal, or the Empress. This is the quickest path between knowledge and understanding. They who know the Qabalah know these spheres occurred at the same time. There is where the separation ceases, for this passive place is where the active visits nourishment and vessel for the natural. See Al-Quran 30:30. The Gray Palace is full of experiencing epiphanies, hierophanies, and theophanies. They can go by so fast that they are a blur from any perception. Impossible as they may seem in the simplified detail we receive or pass on. They happen, if you only knew. Okay, Reed said. This is all so new to me, but there are always other days and nights to talk. Tell me the rest of the story, please. Very well, said Sheikh. The wake world continues with Gom. Are the priestess going to the crown sphere from beauty? She reads from the scriptures as God revealed them. They are always most beautiful when unaltered. There is an inner and outer truth to the book, and not everything can be comprehended by any one human being. Only the initiate to the exoteric of a matter experiences the esoteric properly. From the palace of Saturn, or the third house, we go via the gate of Bait, or the Magus. Here we see that will or intention is the best and most effective approach. This is the sole wisdom of the universe of positive manifestation. Here we are the word and wisdom, but limited by expression. The tunnel beyond the 21 numbered tunnels is Aleph, or the fool. Silence and priestcraft threaten us as the one. See Al-Quran 112:1. Who is beyond all. See Al-Quran 112:2. Offers to tell us knowledge of a threefold nothingness from which he came. God, like the fool, is within the system, because he is the creator, Al-Khaliq, and evolver, Al-Bari. This creation is known and understood by Allah fully, but it blocks us from beholding him. See Al-Quran 606. You may end up as both within and without the system as well. When all is said and done, all returns to Al-Warith, the supreme inheritor. We arrive at the sphere of white beyond white. If one goes that far, you can't turn away, and you see that compared to the rest of the journey, you are unaware. Even a Buddhi, awakened one, has much more to achieve, yea, threefold or even more. The beginning has has disappeared in the end. There are other things to start again. The time for rest had come, so they parted. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Peace, mercy, and blessings of the God be upon you. And to close, crown, knowledge, wisdom, gate, fear, mercy, beauty, splendor, firmness, consistently steadfast, foundation on the knees, and the feet is kingdom. And I'm not terribly attached to these paintings here in terms of not being willing to sell them if one wants a good price for them.